The morning mist clung to the Cotswolds hills like a bride's veil, delicate and ephemeral. Oliver Hartwell stood at the window of his room in Thornbury Manor, watching the sun pierce through the autumn fog, his coffee growing cold in his trembling hands. In 3 hours, he would stand beside his best friend James at the altar, carrying not just the wedding rings, but a truth that could destroy everything. The envelope had arrived 2 days ago, slipped under his hotel room door in London. No return address, just his name written in Charlotte's distinctive handwriting, the same elegant script he'd seen on countless dinner invitations over the years. Inside, a single photograph and 5 words that changed everything. "I can't live this lie." Oliver's phone buzzed. "James. Mate, you awake? Big day nerves hitting hard. Could use my best man's wisdom right about now." The irony twisted in Oliver's stomach like a knife. He typed back, "On my way." Walking down the manor's ancient corridors, portraits of long-dead aristocrats seemed to judge him from their gilded frames. Each step echoed with the weight of what he knew. 3 years ago, when James had been working those brutal 100-hour weeks, when Charlotte had felt invisible in her own relationship, when loneliness had driven her to make a choice that would haunt them all. He found James in the groom's suite, struggling with his cufflinks, hands shaking slightly. The morning light caught the silver in his friend's temples. When had they gotten so old? When had life become so complicated? "Ollie," James said, his voice thick with emotion, "I need to tell you something, before all this madness begins." Oliver's heart stopped. Did he know? "I'm terrified," James continued, turning to face him fully. "Not of marrying Charlotte. God, I love that woman more than life itself. But I'm terrified I haven't been enough for her. Those years when I prioritized work, when I missed dinners, anniversaries. What if she never truly forgave me?" The cruel irony of James's fears, so close to the truth yet so far from it, made Oliver's chest tighten. He wanted to speak, to confess everything, but James pulled him into an embrace, the kind of desperate hug men only share in moments of raw vulnerability. "Promise me something," James whispered. "If you ever see me failing her again, if you ever see me taking her for granted, you'll tell me. You'll stop me. Promise me, Ollie." Oliver closed his eyes, feeling the weight of promises made and promises broken. "I promise," he said, knowing that within hours he might have to break James's heart in ways neither of them could imagine. A knock interrupted them. Charlotte's bridesmaid, Sophie, peered in. "The photographer wants the groom ready in 15 minutes. Eat." As she left, Oliver noticed something that made his blood run cold. A small, familiar pendant around Sophie's neck. The same pendant he'd seen in the photograph. The same one Charlotte had worn in those secret moments 3 years ago. And suddenly, the identity of Charlotte's lover became horrifyingly clear. Charlotte Pemberton sat before her vanity mirror, her mother's vintage pearl necklace heavy against her throat. Each pearl seemed to represent another lie she'd told, another moment she'd pretended everything was perfect. Her bridesmaids fluttered around her like butterflies, adjusting her veil, touching up her makeup, but all she could see was her own hollow reflection staring back. "You look absolutely radiant," her sister Emma said, squeezing her shoulders. "James won't be able to breathe when he sees you." Charlotte forced a smile, but her mind was elsewhere. 3 years in the past, in a moment of weakness that had spiraled into something far more complicated than a simple affair. It hadn't been about revenge or even passion. It had been about feeling seen, understood, valued in a way James hadn't been able to provide during those dark months. Her phone vibrated. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Now." "Oh, Oliver." Her heart sank. She'd slipped that envelope under his door in desperation, hoping he'd understand, hoping he'd know what to do. Of all James's friends, Oliver had always been the one who saw through facades, who understood that life wasn't black and white. "I need a moment alone," Charlotte announced, her voice steadier than she felt. "Just 5 minutes to collect myself." The bridesmaids exchanged knowing glances. Pre-wedding jitters were normal and filed out. Alone, Charlotte pressed her palms against her eyes, careful not to smudge her makeup. The truth was a living thing inside her chest, clawing to get out. A soft knock. Oliver entered without waiting for permission, closing the door behind him. "You know," Charlotte said, "not a question but a statement." "The photograph helped, but I'd suspected for months," Oliver replied, his voice gentle but firm. "The way you two avoid being alone together. The guilt in your eyes every time James mentions trust. And today, the pendant." Charlotte's hand flew to her neck, then dropped. "It wasn't supposed to happen, none of it. But it did. And now you're about to marry James while the person I had an affair with watches from the third pew." Charlotte's laugh was bitter. "God, Oliver, I've made such a mess of everything." Oliver moved closer, his reflection joining hers in the mirror. "Charlotte, you have exactly 1 hour before you walk down that aisle. Whatever you decide, I'll support you. But James deserves the truth. They both do." "The truth?" Charlotte turned to face him, tears threatening her carefully applied mascara. "The truth is that I loved them both, that I still do, in different ways. The truth is that James's own cousin Michael is the father of—" She stopped, her hand moving instinctively to her stomach. Oliver's eyes widened. "Michael, James's cousin, his childhood companion, the man who'd been there through every major moment of his life, the man who was, at this very moment, helping James with his bow tie. Charlotte, there's more to this than just an affair, isn't there?" She nodded, unable to speak. "Does Michael know?" Another nod. "He's wanted to tell James for 2 years. I'm the one who begged him not to. I'm the coward in this story, Oliver, not him." Michael Thornton had carried his secret like stones in his pockets, each day adding weight until he could barely stand straight. Now, as he helped James with the final touches of his wedding attire, those stones felt like boulders crushing his chest. "Remember when we were kids?" James said, adjusting his tie in the mirror. "That summer at grandfather's estate when we swore we'd be each other's best men?" Michael's hand stilled on James's shoulder. "You chose Oliver. Only because you insisted you hated public speaking," James laughed. "But you're still my cousin, my brother, in everything but blood. Having you here means everything." The words cut deeper than any accusation could have. Michael remembered that summer. 2 boys, 11 and 12, planning imaginary weddings to imaginary wives, promising eternal loyalty. How had he become the man who would betray that sacred bond? "James," Michael started, his voice cracking. "There's something—" "Mr. Thornton." The wedding coordinator appeared at the door. "We need you in position. 5 minutes until processional." James clapped Michael on the back. "Whatever it is can wait until after, yeah? Right now, I just need my family with me." As James left, Michael remained frozen, staring at his reflection. Oliver appeared in the doorway moments later, his expression unreadable. "She told you," Michael said. "It wasn't a question." "Enough," Oliver replied, closing the door. "Michael, what the hell were you thinking?" "I was thinking," Michael said slowly, "that I was in love, that Charlotte needed someone, and James was never there. I was thinking that maybe, just maybe, I deserved a chance at happiness too, with your cousin's fiancée." She wasn't his fiancée then. They were on a break, remember? James had practically moved into his office. Charlotte was alone, depressed. I was just trying to be a friend, to be there for her. And then you fell in love, Oliver finished. Michael sank into a chair, his head in his hands. "The worst part? I can't regret it entirely. Those 3 months were the happiest of my life. Charlotte understood me in ways no one else ever has. But when James came back, when he realized what he'd almost lost and fought to win her back, she chose him. She chose him, and I helped her keep our secret because I loved her enough to want her happiness, even if it wasn't with me. But there's more," Oliver said carefully. "Something that changes everything." Michael looked up, his eyes red-rimmed. "You know about the baby. Charlotte's pregnant?" "No," Michael said quietly. "Was. 2 years ago. She lost it at 11 weeks. The same week James proposed." His voice broke. "I never even got to mourn properly. Couldn't tell anyone, couldn't grieve. Just had to watch the woman I love marry my cousin while carrying the secret of our lost child. Oliver felt the ground shift beneath him. This wasn't just about an affair anymore. This was about loss, grief, and impossible choices. Michael, you have to tell him. Today, now, and destroy his happiness on his wedding day. Or let him build a marriage on a foundation of lies. The church bells began to ring, calling guests to take their seats. Michael stood, straightening his jacket. I've made my choice, Oliver. I chose James's happiness over my truth. Charlotte chose it too. The only question is, what will you choose? The ancient church of St. Mary's stood like a testament to centuries of promises made and broken. Oliver took his position at the altar, the rings in his pocket feeling like they weighed 1,000 pounds. James stood beside him, radiating joy, completely unaware that his best man held the power to shatter his world with a single word. The music began. Paschal bells canon, Charlotte's choice. Oliver watched the wedding party proceed down the aisle. Emma, Charlotte's sister, trying to smile through her own knowledge of her sister's secret. Sophie, unconsciously touching the pendant that matched the one in the photograph. And finally, Michael, his face a mask of practiced calm that couldn't quite hide the storm beneath. Then came Charlotte. She was breathtaking in her ivory gown, her great-grandmother's veil flowing behind her like a river of lace. But Oliver saw what others missed, the slight tremor in her hands, the way her eyes sought Michael for just a fraction of a second before finding James, the forced brightness of her smile. James gasped audibly when he saw her. The pure love and adoration on his face was almost unbearable to witness. He whispered something that made Charlotte's facade crack slightly, a genuine smile breaking through before being quickly controlled. The vicar began. Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness the union of James William Thornton and Charlotte Rose Pemberton. Oliver's mind raced. The moment was approaching, the moment when the vicar would ask if anyone knew of any impediment to this marriage. His mouth went dry. He could feel Michael's eyes boring into his back, could sense Charlotte's silent plea, could feel James's complete trust radiating beside him. Marriage is a sacred covenant, the vicar continued, built on truth, trust, and mutual devotion. Each word felt like an accusation. Oliver thought about the envelope, the photograph, the pendant. He thought about Michael's unborn child, Charlotte's guilt, James's ignorance. How could he let this continue? How could he stop it? His phone vibrated silently in his pocket. Without looking, he knew it was the final piece of evidence he'd requested from a private investigator, proof that would make the truth undeniable if he chose to reveal it. James, the vicar said, do you take Charlotte to be your lawfully wedded wife, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part? I do, James said, his voice strong and clear, his eyes never leaving Charlotte's face. Charlotte, do you take James to be your lawfully wedded husband, to have and to hold, in sickness and in health, for richer or poorer, for better or worse, till death do you part? A pause, longer than comfortable. The church held its breath. Charlotte began, her voice catching. She looked at James, then past him to Michael, then to Oliver. Charlotte? James said softly, concern replacing joy on his face. She was crying now, her carefully applied makeup running in delicate streams. James, I need to... The vicar cleared his throat uncomfortably. Perhaps the bride needs a moment? No, Charlotte said suddenly, firmly. No, I need to say this now. James, I love you. I've loved you since university through everything, but I haven't been honest with you. I can't start our marriage with this between us. The church erupted in whispers. James's face went pale. Charlotte, what are you talking about? Oliver stepped forward, ready to support his friend, when Charlotte continued, 3 years ago, when we were apart, when you were consumed by work and I was losing myself in loneliness, I made a terrible mistake. I had an affair. The words hung in the air like shattered glass. James stood frozen, his face cycling through confusion, disbelief, and the first edges of devastating comprehension. The congregation had gone completely silent, 200 guests holding their collective breath, waiting for the world to either end or continue. "Charlotte," James's voice was barely a whisper, "what are you saying?" "I'm saying I'm a coward," Charlotte replied, her voice growing stronger through her tears. "I'm saying I betrayed you in the worst possible way, and I've been too afraid to tell you. But I won't make vows before God and everyone we love while carrying this lie." James's legs seemed to give way slightly. Oliver caught his arm, steadying him. "Maybe we should continue this privately," Oliver suggested, but James shook him off. "No," James said, his voice hollow. "She's right. If we're doing this, we're doing it with truth." He turned back to Charlotte. "Who?" Charlotte's mouth opened, but no sound came. Her eyes darted to Michael, who had gone as white as his shirt. It was Michael who stepped forward. "It was me," he said, his voice carrying through the church like a death knell. "James, it was me." The gasp from the congregation was audible. James turned slowly, as if in a dream, to face his cousin. "You're joking. This is some kind of sick joke." "I wish it was," Michael said, tears now flowing freely down his face. "God, James, I wish it was. I never meant for it to happen. You were gone, working those insane hours. Charlotte was falling apart. I was just trying to help, to be there for her, and you slept with my fiancée." James's voice was rising now, anger replacing shock. "My cousin, my brother, and you slept with my fiancée?" "We were on a break," Charlotte interjected weakly. "You'd said you needed space to focus on the promotion." "A break doesn't mean you fall into bed with my cousin," James shouted, then caught himself remembering where they were. He laughed bitterly. "God, how long? How long did this go on?" 3 months, Michael admitted. "It ended when you came back, when you realized what you'd lost and fought for her. She chose you, James. She always chose you." "How generous of her," James said sarcastically. He turned to Oliver. "Did you know?" Oliver's silence was answer enough. "How long?" James demanded. 2 days, Oliver said. "Charlotte sent me proof 2 days ago. I was trying to figure out the right way. The right way?" James laughed again, the sound sharp and broken. "The right way would have been to tell me before I stood at this altar like a fool." The vicar stepped forward awkwardly. "Perhaps we should—" "There's more," Charlotte said suddenly. Everyone turned to her. "James, there's more you need to know. I was pregnant, Michael's child. I lost the baby the week you proposed to me." This final revelation seemed to break something in James. He staggered backward, Oliver catching him again. The church erupted in shocked whispers, some guests already leaving, others pulling out phones to capture the drama. "A baby," James repeated numbly. "You were carrying his child when I proposed. When I poured out my heart, promised to be better, swore I'd never neglect you again. You were carrying my cousin's child. I wanted to tell you," Charlotte sobbed. "So many times I wanted to tell you, but I thought it would destroy you. And after I lost the baby, it seemed like a sign that maybe we could start fresh, that maybe you could build our marriage on a lie." James's voice was cold now, the anger crystallizing into something harder. "Every day for 2 years, you've looked me in the eye and lied. Every I love you, every plan we made, every moment, all of it tainted by this." He turned to Michael. "And you stood by my side, helped me plan this wedding, gave toasts at our engagement party, all while knowing—" His voice broke. "Get out, both of you. Get out of my sight." "James, please," Charlotte reached for him, but he stepped back. "I said get out." The raw pain in his voice echoed through the church. 20 minutes later, the church had emptied in a chaos of whispers, tears, and shocked exclamations. Oliver found James sitting alone in the vestry, his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking with silent sobs. The abandoned wedding ring sat on the table before him, catching the light from the stained glass windows. "I'm sorry," Oliver said quietly, sitting beside his friend. "I'm so sorry. You should have told me," James said without looking up. The moment you knew, you should have told me. You're right. I was trying to find the right time, the right way. There's no right way to find out your life is a lie, Ollie. James finally looked up, his eyes red and swollen. But at least it wouldn't have been in front of everyone I've ever known. They sat in silence for a moment before James spoke again. The signs were there, weren't they? The way they avoided each other at parties. Charlotte's sudden illness right before the engagement party. Michael's strange toast about second chances and choosing happiness. God, I'm such a fool. You're not a fool for trusting the people you love, Oliver said carefully. Aren't I? James laughed bitterly. My fiancé, my cousin, and apparently half the wedding party knew. Emma knew, didn't she? That's why she kept trying to talk to me privately this week. And Sophie with that pendant, was she covering for them? James, the baby, James interrupted, his voice breaking again. She was pregnant with his child while I was on my knees in the rose garden, promising her forever. How do you come back from that? Before Oliver could respond, the vestry door opened. An elderly woman entered, James's grandmother, Eleanor Thornton, matriarch of the family, and the one person whose opinion truly mattered to both James and Michael. Grandmother, James started. I'm sorry about... Hush, child, she said, her voice gentle but firm. She sat on James's other side, her aged hands taking his. I've seen many things in my 83 years. Love, betrayal, forgiveness, redemption. The human heart is capable of both terrible cruelty and extraordinary grace. There's no grace in what they did, James said bitterly. No, Eleanor agreed, but there might be grace in how you respond to it. She paused, choosing her words carefully. Your grandfather had an affair once, before you were born, nearly destroyed our marriage. James looked up in shock. His grandparents had always been his model of perfect love. But we survived it, Eleanor continued. Not easily, not quickly, but we survived. And our marriage became stronger for having been tested and rebuilt. I'm not saying you should forgive Charlotte or Michael. That's your choice alone. But I am saying that how you handle this moment will define not just your future, but the man you become. How did you forgive him? James asked quietly. I realized that love isn't just the feeling. It's the choice you make every day to stay, to work, to forgive, to grow. Your grandfather made a terrible choice, but then he made 1,000 right ones. The question is, can Charlotte do the same? Do you want her to have that chance? I don't know, James admitted. Right now, I can't even look at her without seeing them. Eleanor nodded. Then don't make any decisions today. Today, you grieve. Tomorrow, you think. And someday, maybe weeks from now, maybe months, you'll know what to do. She stood to leave, then turned back. Charlotte is at the manor, packing. Michael left for London. Whatever you decide, James, don't let this moment make you cruel. The world has enough cruelty already. The letter arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered to Oliver's London flat along with his usual mail. Charlotte's handwriting, now familiar from months of correspondence about the wedding that never was, the deposits to be returned, the gifts to be sent back. Oliver, it read, I'm writing to let you know that I'm leaving England. I've accepted a position in New York, a fresh start, where I'm not the woman who destroyed the Thornton wedding of the year. I wanted to thank you for your kindness during the worst moment of my life. You could have exposed me cruelly, but you gave me the chance to tell the truth myself. That grace meant everything. Michael has moved to Edinburgh. We haven't spoken since that day. We never will again. What we had, whatever it was, died long before the wedding. Maybe it died the day I lost the baby. Maybe it died the day James came back and I realized I still loved him. Maybe it was never really alive at all, just two lonely people making a terrible decision. James won't see me, won't take my calls. I understand. I've written him letters, dozens of them, trying to explain, not to excuse, but just to help him understand that my love for him was never a lie. The affair was the lie. My love for him was the only truth I had left. I'm including something for you to give him, if you think he'll accept it. Not now, perhaps, but someday. It's my grandmother's locket, the one piece of jewelry that was truly mine. not connected to our relationship. Inside is a photo from university, the three of us at that horrible fancy dress party where you went as Shakespeare and James and I went as Romeo and Juliet. We were so young, so certain that love conquered all. Maybe it does, just not in the way we expected. Be well, Oliver. Take care of him. Charlotte Oliver set down the letter and picked up the small velvet box. Inside, the locket was simple, elegant, very Charlotte. He opened it to find the photo she'd mentioned. 3 20-year-olds laughing at the camera, arms around each other, unaware of how complicated love could become. His phone rang. James. Ollie, you free for lunch? They met at their usual pub, the one they'd been going to since university. James looked better. He'd lost the hollow look of the first months, though something in his eyes had permanently changed. I've been seeing someone, James said without preamble. A therapist, I mean. Trying to work through everything. That's good, mate, really good. She asked me something interesting last week. She asked if I could separate the affair from the relationship, the betrayal from the love. If I could hold two truths at once, that Charlotte loved me and that she hurt me terribly. And James took a long drink of his beer. I don't know. Some days I can. Some days I remember the good years, the laughter, the woman who stayed by my side through my father's death, who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself. Other days, all I can see is her with Michael. All I can think about is the baby, the lies. She's leaving, Oliver said gently, moving to New York. She wanted me to tell you. James nodded slowly. Michael called last week from Edinburgh, wanted to explain, to apologize again. I hung up on him. Do you think you'll ever be able to forgive them? I don't know, James said honestly. I know grandmother thinks I should. She keeps telling me about forgiveness being freedom, about not letting bitterness poison my future. But forgiveness feels like saying what they did was okay, and it wasn't. Maybe forgiveness isn't about them, Oliver suggested. Maybe it's about you, about choosing to let go of the anger so you can move on. James was quiet for a moment. The therapist said something similar. She said holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. He pulled out his phone, showed Oliver a message he'd typed but not sent. Charlotte, I don't forgive you yet. Maybe I never will completely, but I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to separate the pain you caused from the person you are. I hope New York brings you peace. Maybe someday it will bring me peace too. Jay, should I send it? Oliver thought about the locket in his pocket, about Charlotte's letter, about the photo of 3 young people who thought they understood love. I think, he said carefully, that's something only you can decide. James stared at the message for a long moment, then pressed send. There, it's done. He looked up at Oliver. You know what the strangest part is? I still love her. Despite everything, part of me still loves her, and I hate myself for it. Love doesn't just stop because someone hurts you, Oliver said. If it did, it wouldn't be love. They sat in comfortable silence, 2 friends who had weathered a storm together. Outside, London life continued, people rushing past, living their own dramas, carrying their own secrets. I ran into someone at therapy, James said suddenly. Another patient. We've had coffee a few times. Nothing romantic, just someone who understands what it's like to have your world shattered and have to rebuild it. That's good, James. That's really good. Her fiancé left her at the altar. Different kind of betrayal, same kind of pain. He paused. She said something that stuck with me. She said the hardest part wasn't learning to trust others again. It was learning to trust herself, her own judgment. Oliver nodded. And do you trust yourself? I'm learning to, day by day. James finished his beer. You know, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if Charlotte hadn't confessed, if she'd gone through with it, if we'd married, had kids, grown old together, all while carrying that secret. Would you have wanted that? No, James said firmly. The pain is horrible, but at least it's honest. At least now I can build something real, even if it's built on ruins. As they left the pub, Oliver finally pulled out the velvet box. She wanted you to have this. You don't have to take it, but James took the box, opened it, saw the photo. For a moment his face crumpled, then reformed into something like acceptance. "We were so young," he said softly. "We thought we knew everything about love. And now I know that love isn't enough. It needs truth, trust, forgiveness, and the courage to be vulnerable even when you know you could be hurt again." He closed the locket, put it in his pocket. "I'll keep it, not as a reminder of what we had, but of what I learned." They parted ways at the tube station. As Oliver watched his friend disappear into the crowd, he thought about the wedding that never was, the truths that had been revealed, the pain that had led to growth. Charlotte was starting over in New York, Michael in Edinburgh, James in therapy and tentative coffee dates. Life, Oliver realized, rarely gave you the ending you expected. Sometimes the best man's greatest act of friendship wasn't holding the rings or giving a toast. It was knowing when to let the truth interrupt the ceremony, even when that truth would change everything. The Cotswolds church still stood, waiting for the next couple to make their vows. The manor had hosted 3 weddings since that October day. Life moved on, as it always did, carrying its secrets and revelations, its betrayals and redemptions, its love that endured and love that ended. But for those who were there that day, when the best man interrupted the wedding and revealed the lover's identity, life would never be quite the same. They had witnessed something raw and real, the moment when truth triumphed over comfort, when honesty shattered illusion, when 3 people's lives were irrevocably changed by secrets finally brought to light. In the end, perhaps that was the greatest love story of all. Not the love between Charlotte and James or Charlotte and Michael, but the love that demanded truth, the love that chose painful honesty over comfortable lies, the love that said, "You deserve to know, even if it destroys us all."